gosh, please tell me that my audio is working. I had to restart my machine and do all this stuff, fancy stuff again. So I'm really hoping that I got audio. Do we have liftoff? Yay! Yay! Oh my gosh. Yes! Yay! Oh, all you hear is typing noises? Well, that's not good. Oh no, what is yes! Okay, I was like, all you can hear is a keyboard. I hope that's not the case. Oh no! Okay, awesome. Oh my gosh. Wow. It took 30 minutes to get that fixed. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, folks. I really appreciate you sticking through on this one. It was a really rough start. Just, slightly embarrassing. That's all. And it's working now. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I just had to restart my machine and everything just started working after that, so I'm not so sure. So, all right. Well, I'm glad that you're here. I'm not going to worry about people filtering in. We probably lost a couple people. Just as a quick announcement, first, go ahead and hit up Philip if you have any questions during the stream. Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate that. I'm really excited about this stream. And let's just cap what we're going to be doing, or go over what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be telling the story of the creation of a village. And there is an order on which villages grow and stuff. So below a village is what's called a hamlet. And we're going to be starting with a small hamlet and then growing into a village. And then next week, next Wednesday on the 17th, 10 a.m. PDT, we'll be turning it into a town. And I'm super excited about that. So I got a nice little story filled with intrigue and violence and happiness and all that good stuff. So I am excited. I won't waste any time. So let's just jump right in. All right, sweet. I am so excited. Let me fix my stamps real quick. I went through all this trouble of trying to get this audio to work. Silly thing. All right, let's just jump right in. Yeah. Sweet. All right. I appreciate everyone's understanding. All right, so let's the story begin. All right, so imperialist ventures in the south brings displacement as refugees travel north into what's called the Wild. In the Wild, you travel north along the Alondo River, trying to find some nice place for some villagers or refugees to make camp and to live. They travel for about 6 months until they reach a very nice spot that's along the west bank of the Alondo River. It's getting rather dark on their arrival, so they wait until sunrise to survey the land and where to place their settlement. When morning rises, they look and observe the surrounding on where they want to build their site. To the north, there is a limestone outcropping that is along the Alondo River, but there's some ruins there. And some of the villagers decide that they don't want to build there. It's bad luck to build a village on a ruined area. So the villagers decide to consult a tide witch or a weathering woman. This is usually a woman of experience who villagers will consult when trying to divine the weather, trying to figure out which way the wind will blow, because they're going to need to build a mill here, and they need to know how consistent the wind is. And so this tide witch is going to read the vagaries of the wind and find out if there's a consistent wind and which direction to build the mill. Because when you're building a village, you're going to need a couple things. You're going to need availability to water. That's the river there. And you'll also see that there is a rock quarry to the west, in the west area, a rock quarry, and you'll see a thicket, a nice forest area where you're going to find wood available for building. So these are some of the key components. You need to have location that's going to have food and water. And these villagers have found a fairly decent location. Right here, there's a rock quarry, and there's this thicket here, and they're going to be using this wood for timber. Now they've consulted with the tide witch, and they've decided that it is unsafe, or at least it's quite precarious, they're a little leery about building near ruins, so they decide that instead they're going to build where the rock quarry is and where the wood is. This is closest to the resources, and this way they don't have to travel further up north up to the ruins area, because it's a lot of rock, and you're going to need some kind of mason with lots and lots and lots of skill and wheelbarrows to carry all this mason, all this stonework. So there's no point in building there. So, and they're still reeling from a lot of the kind of, shall we say, PTSD of being refugees, traveling for 6 months, 11 families. 2 have died. 1 died in trying to forge a river. Others died of dysentery. So it's a little Oregon Trail, shall we say. So what we're going to do first is we're going to ask the Tide Witch which direction the wind is blowing. And there is a consistent wind, according to the Weathered Woman, of a south or an easterly wind, and it is fairly consistent. You can see the strong winds lapping the waves of the Alondo along the west bank. And so it will be a prime idea to face the windmill's sails to the west. So that way it can pick that nice easterly wind. Let's go down to where it's going to be and let's figure out our planning. First, you're going to have to build a road that's going to lead to all the various locations, and you're going to have to think about the infrastructure of this village and what stamps to place down. First, let's build the mason. Now the mason is going to be located quite close to the quarry so that they can take that rock and use it. And we're going to be using some of the pebble, shard, small rocks, which the mason is going to break up, and use some of that small stone to make a road. We're not worried about making a heavy, really strong, massive road. This is just a village, really starting out as a hamlet. So instead, we're not going to worry about making a very, 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 very sturdy road. We're going to make a very simple one with just rock and pebble. And the villagers are first going to need to set up an encampment. Now they've been traveling for a while, so they're going to place all of their wagons into an encampment area. And they're also going to pitch up some tents, which I thought I had tents here, but it doesn't look like I have them. Now that's a mistake. Well, let's just make some temporary structures here. We'll use these ones for now. We have some temporary structures. They're going to camp right here. All right. So the first things first is they've taken some of this rock. They've broken it up. So let's remove some of these rocks. And they've got wheelbarrows. They've been harvesting that rock, trying to get rock for the base of the windmill. The windmill is going to be a rock structure. And we're also going to start building our road. Let's go into our brush tool and pick a road texture. Doesn't have to be too complex. I'm going to pick something very simple, like this street floor texture right here, and I'm going to use a low opacity. And the road is important because the road is going to decide where all the other structures are going to be. So lay a road from the rock quarry and then have it going out, and I'm going to have it be going north, up like this. So first, let's get the right brush size, build our road, softness all the way up, opacity down. Make sure we're set to the right layer. And the road, we'll say, starts right here and goes to the rock quarry. We'll have it bend a little bit like this. I'm going to have more of the road over here, by the rock quarry, and have some over here. And this is where our structures are going to be. So some rock has been taken and crushed and laid down here to create a very small road. Zoom in a little bit more. Now they're going to have to continue to cut down some trees, so we'll remove some trees they've been cutting for timber. Now one thing that you need to know about structures is medieval structures is they use something called half timbers. Now half timbers is a framework using large timber or lumber and filling it in with wattle, or the empty spaces with wattle and daub. Now wattle is a mix between reed and branches that are woven into a mat. And they put those in those negative spaces where the frame is, and then they cover it in what's called daub. And daub is generally a mix of mud or clay that's used as a sealant. So they're going to need to cut down this timber to create these half timber, right? So we'll place a couple of this. So there's some timber's been cut. Let's also cut some trees down. Some trees have been cut. Some timber has been put down. Timber has been made, so now we can start putting together the mason, because the mason is going to be used for stonework. So he has a temporary structure here, and we also want to add another temporary structure for our carpenter. And I'm going to place them over here next to this camp. So this is a temporary wooden structure for our carpenter and for our mason. All right, let's go ahead and delete our card. Some time has passed. Construction is beginning. We're going to go ahead and put down our mason. The mason is going to be close. They've been able to build and get this set up. So the first structure is done. The mason is going to be useful for all kinds of things, not just for the windmill, but for if they want to improve upon the road, if they want to create a stone wall. There's all kinds of reasons why you would need a stone mason. So this is part of our infrastructure for our village. Let's go ahead and keep on going. Now we have to worry about our carpenter. Our carpenter is going to be getting help from the villagers, cutting down logs, building the structures. We've already built the mason. Let's go ahead and do the next one. That should be let me take a look here. Which one of these is it? I think this one's it. Let me just verify that I have this right. This should be, let me see, this should be a carpenter. Let me check. This is the carpenter. Perfect. And the carpenter built their structure next to his temporary house and his family, so we can delete that structure. And now we have a carpenter. Now the carpenter is close to the thicket, so they can keep cutting wood. The timber has been moved. All right, so we got some timber, a cart, and they're close, so they can go ahead and easily move the timber around and continue construction. So the mason, the carpenter, all of these are going to be necessary infrastructure when building your village. So now that the carpenter's been in, let's keep moving on. We're also going to need leatherworks. Now, leatherworks are really important because if you're going to have a farm, you're going to need all the leatherworks necessary for a saddle, bridle, and the other works and other leatherworks that you're going to need, because a horse will not be able to move a plow without the proper rigging, and so that's going to require leatherworks. So let's go in and make sure that we grab a leatherwork piece, and our leatherworks is going to be relatively close to our carpenter and not far away from our mason. And I'm going to put them over here because our farms are going to be put over here. So our village is growing. So far, there's been no bandits, no new refugees have arrived. Things are going well. It's been probably about a month or so. Construction is going quickly, and the village, or the small encampment, is turning slowly into a hamlet. Let's go ahead and also include a blacksmith. Now, a blacksmith is going to be absolutely necessary, as they're going to be creating the horseshoes, the nails, the bits for the horses' mouths, and all these other pieces that are absolutely necessary for farming. You're not going to be able to use the leatherworks without also having metalworks. They're absolutely necessary for these pieces when farming. So make sure that you include a a blacksmith. I believe I have one here. And I'm going to keep the blacksmith relatively close to the other structure, to the other workers as well. I'm going to go ahead and delete these temporary structures. And also, we need to delete more wood has been cut. More and more wood is cut. And more stone is removed. We're going to remove some more stone, and we're going to cut just a couple more trees. There should be some stumps there, so that's nice. So we have tons more wood as more structures get built, and the landscape is changing around us. As more wood is needed, the more of the forest will get cleared. As more stone we gather, the quarry will slowly begin to empty out. So availability of resources is important. So let's review what we have for our infrastructure of our hamlet so far. We have our blacksmith, or I'm sorry, our mason. Our stone mason is here. Our blacksmith is here. Our leatherworks, and also our lumber camp. Okay. Let's zoom out and take a look. Let's also do a quick save. I hope you all are enjoying the stream. I really enjoyed putting this together. And I just want you to know that this is just the beginning. Don't forget, next week, next Wednesday the 17th, 10 a.m. PDT, this nice little village / hamlet will turn into a town. And I am super excited. Yay! All right. Thanks for bearing with me. Now there's going to be a lot more infrastructure, and there's a hell of a lot more story to go as well. So let's keep going. Let's see our village, currently our hamlet, keep growing. Keep going. All right. So we keep on going, and we find out that we have enough stone now from our rock quarry to start to begin our windmill. And remember, we want to face it towards the west. We have a nice compass here towards the west to catch that nice, consistent easterly wind. Because as you know, the wind can be very unpredictable. Lots of vagaries. So we're going to keep this relatively close to the village. We're going to place it out here like this right here, and this is where our crops are going to be. The windmill requires a lot of stone, and we picked a prime location, and we also want to build a road that goes to there. So we'll take this and go right to the mill right here, and we're also going to create a series of barns, so that, because we also want storage silos, because what a mill is going to do is we're going to grow corn, and then the millstone is going to grind that corn into flour. Okay, and that flour is what's going to be the bulk or the stock in which most people are going to be using for their food supply. Now there is a river, but the tide witch had warned that the river's current is far too strong, far too strong for fishing. You will have to travel either farther up or downstream for you to grab the kind of fish that's necessary. Obviously, you can take a boat and go fishing, but for now, the current is far too strong, and it doesn't look like that you can create a port there. And the villagers, of course, are still reeling from the tragedy of dealing with war and crisis, and they don't want to feel unsafe being so close to the water, you know, where enemy ships might come. And so they're just too afraid, and they want to stay closer to the kind of glade or the enclosure that's over here, so they feel a little bit safer. So perhaps as time goes by, they might feel or have some kind of courage to venture up north over to the ruins. But for now, the villagers are just too filled with superstition and are very fearful that ruination might befall them as well. So we will avoid the ruins, the villagers have decided. So now we've created our mill, and we're obviously going to need to create some barns for your livestock animals, and for where to store your hay, and where to store tools, and things like that. So a windmill will also need storage space, so we can create a barn, and we can put the barn relatively close right here. And I'm going to have the villagers uproot this stump. If I can remove it, for some reason I can't. Let's just quickly lock that layer. There we go. Let's go ahead and delete. Oop, that's right. The stump is on a different layer. That's my bad. Let me make sure that I lock this as well. Oops. Just realized I had a lot of big groups there. So we have this nice big barn. Let's make sure that we set it in the right place. Let's find the entrance to go in. And we want to think about flow of traffic. The villagers are thinking very carefully about how easy is it to go to and fro from certain locations. So you have an easy road leading to the main part, and more houses will be put in, and we'll be able to put a lot more other things in as well. Let's also put in some shacks and some other things. So let's go ahead and add that. Along here, we'll put some storage units, one here, and let's go ahead and turn off the random. And we're going to place just a couple of them. These are going to be storage units. So we have 3 little units that you can store flour or corn in. And there's also a barn here. And I might even change the barn as well, since we do want direct access to the crops. So let's move this over to here where our storage is going to be, and this is going to be along here. And they're going to chop down this tree because we're going to put our fields over here. All right, let's keep chopping down more wood. More and more wood needs to be chopped down. We're going to keep this as here to block the view of the village a little bit, and we'll keep cutting timber as it's going to be necessary. This large barn right here is going to require a ton of timber. So we're going to do a lot of cutting. And I just want you to know that these villagers are going to replant. Whatever seeds that they find, they want to replant. Future generations also want to have resources in wood. So they are also replanting as a policy so that wood can grow back. Obviously, it's going to be some time before trees grow back, but it's a good policy. The village has come to a accord or a compact in which they will try to help each other instead of competing against each other. They know that their survival depends on working as a collective. So together they're going to keep each other safe as best as they can. But that doesn't mean that rivalries and bad things can happen. So we'll see how that goes. Let's go ahead and save and continue on. We're going to be working on crops and farms. And if any of you have any feedback about the map or about the direction of the story, please let me know. I'm open. So if you have any story plots or anything, I will write them down and give them some serious thought. Our village is still growing. There's still so much more to do. All right, here we go. Here we go. This is exciting. All right, let it continue. So now crops are going to have to be made, and the way to do that is you first need to have workhorses. Workhorses are needed to carry the plow, to hold the plow, and to till the earth. So we already have a barn for our horses, and the horses are going to come out and they're going to till much of this land. So we're going to want to pick a texture to equal our land that's tilled. Let's go ahead and do that. All right, let's make sure that we have the right size. And I'm going to have the crops be like this. So just 1 second while I load. Let's see here. I'm set to the right layer. Let's go up a little bit more. And remember, this land is just tilled. It is not necessarily the crop itself. We're going to go through stages. So lots and lots of tilling. And we also want to think about the direction in which our crop is facing, okay? Knowing which directions crops face is absolutely vital to maximizing sunlight in which your crops can receive. So keep that in mind. Notice that the north is here and east and west. So we want to maximize the sunlight. So we're going to make our crop go from east to west. Like this, we want to maximize, and we're going to put in a couple more because we're going to be doing different kinds of crops, not just corn for the mill, but some other crops as well. We're going to the villagers spent at least a week foraging through the forest, looking for edible berries, trying to figure out what weeds are edible, what other plants are edible, and the tide witch generally does that with the children. It's generally a tradition, going into the thicket and grabbing edible plants and then growing those plants and using them. So let's keep going. We're going to build another crop here, and these crops should be just enough to feed just the 11 families we have, unless more people show up, and I'm sure that they will. Let's take a look at our crops. So this land has been tilled and it's ready for sowing. And sowing is what you do when you plant your seeds. And you're going to think about our crops. This large crop here is going to be corn because that is what's going to be used to be ground into flour by the mill. These other crops can be vegetables like tomatoes or anything like that. It just depends if what the villagers were able to find in the thicket, what kind of plants were available. And also there is a herbalist who we will also include. The Tide Witch generally takes on the role as herbalist and generally takes on an apprentice, so we'll be able to include an herbalist as well. So let's go ahead and check that out. And I think there is an herbalist. Let's take a look, and indeed there is. And the herbalist, of course, is going to be close to the forest where they can go and gather. So we'll make sure that that's relatively close. I'm going to put it right here. And we're also going to place some crops for the herbalist. So that way that they can grow the various herbs that they need. So let's go ahead and put in some little spots for the herbalist. And some like there. So that, some digging there. And of course, all of that took lumber. So we're going to cut some more trees. Keep cutting, add more cut. Tons of timber. And we're also going to include some barrels and crates because she's probably going to have some barrels and crates filled with tons of things that they're going to need. So we'll include some barrels and we'll also include some crates over here. So there's a crate there and a smaller crate here. Awesome. There we go. So now we have barrels and crates for our herbalist, our Tide Witch, and we also have crops that have been tilled, or at least the ground has been tilled. We'll want to move on next to go ahead and sowing. So now let's go ahead and sow our crops. And remember, we're going to think about and which way to grow them. So let's think about this. We're going to open up here into textures. You just go ahead and press the B key, press the F key to open up the catalog. In the search field, just type in crop. There should be. So there's some crops there. I'm going to use yellow. We are thinking about corn. I know that these crops don't look necessarily like corn, and that's okay. So now you're going to have to, of course, go into the advanced settings, and you're going to have to change the rotation. And the rotation is important. Remember thinking about which way the crop is facing. Corn is very tall. So let's go ahead and make sure it's all facing, let's say, this way. Let me just verify. That looks good. And we're going to do one swipe. I'm going to drop it down a little bit and increase this. Let's go over and just see how it looks. Oopsie, that's not the right one. This is the right crop right here. Just a moment, apologies. Let's put that out here. So let's put down a crop like this. Other mills might have to be created. Right now, it's been about 6 months. About 6 months now, and a lot of structures have been built. Crops are being sown. The villagers are beginning to feel a little bit of safety. And things are moving quickly. More structures are being built and put up. We're going to want to put some structures over by, let's say, a tool shed over here, right there. And we're also going to create some roads that go lead over to that. So let's go switch over to here, bring this over. A road's going to go adjacent to this crop and go straight to this tool shed over here. Okay, and we'll also include another one that goes like this to here. Okay, and we'll continue that through here, here, and through here. All right. I love it. All right. That first crop is down. Let's go ahead and add a green one. And we'll go ahead and again rotate that. Oops, let's go like that. And let's change the size just a bit. This is a different crop. We don't know exactly what the Tide Witch and the children found in the thicket. Not entirely certain. Hopefully stuff with some medicinal properties. That would be really helpful. We'll see how that goes. Generally, a Tide Witch is a woman of experience, someone who has lived for multiple years and ended up being either a widow or they never got married. And so they decide to take on the orders of being a tide witch, a weathered woman, or whichever name they have. They have many, many names in this world that we've created. And usually, by the time they get about 70 or 80, they consecrate themselves through certain sects that exist in this land, and they do a baptism inside of the Alondo River, in which they get the powers of the river spirit, which allow them to read the tides, the winds, and other such elements, which is why they are such a key asset when you have a town or a village. Even kings have very powerful tide witches at their side to help counsel and guide them in the decisions that they make. Though, of course, they don't always listen to their tide witches, and I'm sure that doesn't always end well, now does it? It's always best to listen to your counselors and advisors. All right, so we've added in a second crop, and we'll add in one more, and we'll just use a different color. We'll use this Gothic one, or you can go with a different color, I don't mind. Let's say that these haven't been sown yet, but they have been tilled, so we'll wait. Let's go ahead and fill in these areas as well with some crop textures. Okay, we'll just find a color that might work. Let's go with green. I think it should be okay. Let's see here. What crop do we want to go with? Let's go with this kind of brown texture. Maybe this will work. Okay, and we'll put down some crops as well. So let's just bring in this kind of reddish color. And then we're going to pick some plants and we're going to place them down like that. Well, she's been picking for days, getting these supplies ready. Now let's go ahead into our catalog and pick some plants of our choice. Close this out. Okay, and I'm just going to take a random plant. It doesn't have to be anything special. You could just take a bush if you wanted to. Like this dry bush right here will work just fine. And you're going to zoom in real close, and I'm going to drop the size down, and I'm just going to make one line like this. Make 1, 2, 3, or 4 like that. I'm going to copy and paste them, rotate them, copy, paste, copy, paste. There we go. And we'll add one more. And then you can copy and paste the whole thing and place it anywhere you want it. So you want to place it over here, one there, and let's put one over here as well, like this. And it looks like there's a couple other rows, so all we got to do is just copy, paste a second row. Okay, place those there. And then one more crop right here. There we go. Nice, there we go. So the herbalist has what little crops they need for medicinal purposes, for helping any ailments or illnesses that the villagers might encounter. Looks like 7, 8 months have gone by. The wind is consistent. Crops are doing well. No crop failure. The tide witch's predictions of the wind has been accurate, and the village is prospering, getting bigger. Let's go ahead and save and continue our story. So far, the village is coming along great. Okay. So what's going to happen next? Well, our imperialist ventures in the south create more refugees, more displacement, and soon, not just shy of 8 months after their arrival and the construction, new refugees arrive by wagon. Now, the villagers will have to decide if they will want to have new villagers here and what skills they possess. They want to be helpful, but of course, being shrewd and careful is always important. It's naive just to accept anyone into your ranks. So be sure that you do a careful audit to make sure if this person is a good fit for your community. The villagers deliberate, and they also consult the Tide Witch. The Tide Witch goes out into the Alondo and submerges herself and gives thought to the events to happen. Then returns to her cavern and rests that night to deliberate and hopefully deliberate what the river spirits have told her in her dreams. The night ends and the morning is nice. A strong, an easterly wind causes the waves to lap against the west bank. It's a misty morning, and it's a good sign. The strong mist and fog is a omen to the villagers and to the Tide Witch that the villagers who have, the people who have showed up will make a good addition. So they decide that they are going to need more timber and more rock to continue construction of the village, or should I say hamlet. So more rock quarrying, more bringing of the rock. The mason is hard at work, moving rock and preparing for the other structures to be built. Wagons filled with stone keep building up, and we're going to build more structures. So let's put some nice structures for the other families that arrived. Greetings, welcome. Let's go ahead and put down more structures. Let's put people by our herbalist. She's going to be a very, very important part. So let's build a couple houses along here for 3 new families that have arrived. They are a little bit separate from the others, but not necessarily away from each other. These villagers who have arrived, they only know themselves and not others. So of course they feel a little nervous at first, and for the time being, they'll probably stick to themselves, at least in social gatherings, until they get to know their new home and its inhabitants. We can also continue to build more outbuilding structures. So there's going to be another barn here, and we'll also put a tool shed over by this villager. Now these villagers don't necessarily have their own trade. They're just particularly laborers, so they will be giving a hand to the farmer, working under the farmer's tutelage to help run the mill and working the fields. So they're going to be basically harvesting the crops and working with this. And hopefully a bond can be shared and created between these refugees so they can create a better life for themselves here. There is indeed a river. They are building their hamlet, or soon to become village, along the west bank of the Alando River. Now the Alando River is very, very turbulent. The waves, or the current, is strong. Fishing is not necessarily an option unless they travel either up or downstream. So remember, for now, there is no port. For there to be a port, they'd have to build some kind of waterworks, maybe some stoneworks and some dams and things like that to mitigate the strong current away. Okay, and that will happen maybe in another video. So, I don't want to give away too much. All right. So there is, for the time being, no fishing, unless you can find a placid part in which you can find the fish, because as the current is going strong and there's white rapid, it's extremely difficult to see. So fishing is just not a possibility. For now, they're going to have to rely on game hunting. That includes things like quail, rabbit, deer if they're lucky, and what other kind of herbs and plants they can find in the thicket. So for now, the main food source is corn, and that's that crop that we've got here. And of course, we've added more villagers, so more crops will have to be sown in the future if they want to keep this up. More and more people will be born, more families, new houses, and maybe new refugees might show up. So we have to keep that as something that's factored in. We're going to cut down some more trees over here. This is going to be cut. More is going to be cut. Let's keep cutting. All right. Let's take a step back and take a look at what we have so far. And remember, our villagers are rather leery of going anywhere near the ruins. Again, they're fearful that building or even going near the ruins, as the villagers have told their children to stay very, very far away from the ruins, because the ruins could and possibly be haunted. It could be cursed. We don't know what happened to the current inhabitants of these people that lived here. For all we know, it could have been a curse, some kind of disaster, a plague, a storm, an army, a curse, demons. We don't know. So we're not sure. And I do like this nice outcropping. This is a limestone outcropping, and it's very high up. It's kind of a nice defensive position if you're a lord. It's because it's nice and high up, and limestone is an excellent foundation in which to build upon. Limestone was often used in mortar to permanently put rocks or large stones together for walls. All right, well, I deviate too much. I'm giving you some future tidbits. Let's not tell you too much. Let's continue with the village. I'm just going to quickly save because I'm a cautionary soul. Now a full year has passed, and our villagers are prospering. Things are going well. But the war is in the south. These imperialist ventures are causing more and more displacement. And with displacement and refugees comes highwaymen. Now, if you're not familiar with what a highwayman is a bandit who will stalk the highway, stalk as an S-T-A-L-K, stalk the highway looking for travelers for them to burgle or to steal from. Now, there's no highway here, so it's just bandits. But our villagers get our first taste of action in over a year. And bandits arrive in the village. And they do, unfortunately, steal much from the villagers. Several villagers are killed. And lots of food supplies and resources are taken. The villagers are infuriated, but also sad and depressed. And they don't know what to do. All they can think of is that the bandits will return and take what is theirs. So a wall, some defenses will be necessary. They consult the blacksmith if they have any experience with weaponsmith, if they understand how to make swords or shears or anything that can be used. For now, plows, shears, and shovels are the only tools that these poor villagers have. They are unable to defend themselves. So they will need some kind of weapons or some kind of defenses. For now, the villagers confide in the tide witch, and a wall makes sense. A small wooden wall. Hopefully the wall itself will be a deterrent from the bandits from wanting to strike, but it depends if the bandits continue to gather more and more resources in their quest, because they are definitely going to try to steal as much as possible, and that includes better weapons, better equipment for their horses, all these kind of things they're going to want to need, because they're not growing food for themselves, they're not growing crops for themselves, they're burglars, they're thieves, they're villains. They want to steal things for themselves, and they don't want to play an active role in society. So instead, they roam about the countryside in our land called the Wild, looking for people to prey upon. Our villagers need to be tactful and think of a way to build a wall that will protect them from bandits. So they're going to need to cut a lot more wood, and they're going to need to also be able to build a ditch. Now the blacksmith's son was an ex-soldier in the military before he escaped with his father. So he is a deserter. But he has some experience working with trench work and ditch work in the army. Or shall we say, the personal retinue in which he was hired. There were not very many professional armies. Lords could only afford so much. Professional armies are very expensive to maintain, expensive to pay, and to keep well fed, and of course, morale has to be high. So, it's very, very expensive to afford your own private retinue. Let's go ahead and start with what the blacksmith's son is going to command or help take command or some kind of leadership role in getting all the timber that's going to be needed. Now this wall is called a palisade wall, and our blacksmith's son knows very well this is a temporary wall that's usually put up. It is very sturdy and can last, but it does require a lot of timber. It does require digging, trench work, and it's again a temporary wall until stone work can be added in. Now the villagers are uneasy about spending resources on a stone wall. They need to assess just how dangerous these bandits are. If the wood wall is not a deterrent, they might have to consider reconstructing the palisade wall into a stone wall to make it more fortified and more intimidating for attackers. So let's start with our carpenter. Our carpenter is going to get more workers, more people from the mill are going to be pulled from the mill and moved over to cut more and more timber. Lots of timber is going to be needed for these palisade walls. So let's cut, because palisade walls are costly. So let's keep going. Lots of wood is being cut and being prepared. And the blacksmith's son is walking along the grounds or along the surround, trying to map out in which the best place for the walls to be. Let's go ahead and look some temporary designs or temporary, because what we have is a problem here. The blacksmith's son recognizes that there is a forest here, and the wall, unfortunately, will have to go towards the woods so that the bandits can't go through the thicket and get to them. So they are in a vulnerable position when it comes to defenses, and the blacksmith's son knows that. So they are in a very difficult situation, and they don't want to rebuild the town or move the hamlet anywhere because that's just too much work. So more and more of the forest will have to be cut and laid and cut so that there's more room to build this wall. So there's going to be lots and lots and lots and lots of cutting. I also want to mention real quick that I appreciate the Inquisitor Nocturne for adding in some information, additional information. That's exciting. Thank you. All right. So now lots of things are going to have to be cut. Let's take a look at what options the blacksmith's son has. He knows for sure that the bandits came through the wood. That's what happened in the last attack. They were able to sneak in under the cover of night and hidden in between the trees. So the forest has become a liability. It will have to be cut so that they can see in the surround. So lots and lots of trees will have to be cut, almost the entire forest, or at least a vast majority of it. So we're going to be doing lots and lots of cut. Let's cut. And what we're going to do is we're just going to remove much of the trees that are surrounding the quarry and onto the east side of the village. And then we'll begin to construct a wall, and a ditch will absolutely be necessary. Now, a ditch is an extra form of defense. Instead of just having the wall itself, if you dig a ditch and then put pikes or spikes or wooden or whatever other things in it as well, that makes it harder for the wall to be climbed. So we're going to make sure to dig a nice ditch on the outside. Now you can also put a ditch also on the inside as well. So that part, digging, will be necessary when putting in the palisade walls, because you'll have to dig, just like when you dig for a road so that you can place stones and gravel in the mix that's necessary for the road. You have to build the same foundation for a wall, because if you don't, then it might not settle right, especially stone. If you don't have a strong foundation, then the stone won't settle right, and it's more prone or vulnerable to attack or breaking. So it's important to think about this in advance when you're placing down your walls. So let's continue cutting, and I think I'm going to have to also open up my stump as well, because my stumps are on a different layer. So you have this stump layer right here. I'm going to delete a bunch of stumps. These are going to have to be cut out and removed. Okay, make sure I got it selected. So we're going to remove a bunch of stumps here. These are going to have to be torn out of the ground. So I'll be removing a lot of stumps. So let's remove these stumps. Let's take a look further up here. How much of the wall is going to go up? It's going to be quite large. They're going to have to enclose a rather large percentage of this area. So let's keep removing stumps because we need room. So we're going to be deleting all this stuff. Delete stumps, more and more stumps will have to be removed. Okay, let's take a look. It's going to be going through there. Okay, we can get out of here. And that's stayed locked. I'm going to be removing this. We're just going to keep cutting. Okay, move these logs. All that is being harvested, so you're going to see a lot more timber, because a lot of this is going to be, all of this timber is basically going to be used for that wall, because it is a lot of timber. Remember, we're going completely around the whole surround. There's going to be quite a bit of timber. So there's going to be a lot going on. So kind of keep that in mind. Let's also, let's keep removing some of these stumps. Let's take a look here. I think this stump needs to be removed, so let's get rid of that one. And then we'll start with our wall, and we're also going to want to figure out the layout. So I'm going to use the path tool. I love the path tool for doing this. It's extremely useful. Let's go ahead and start with where our wall is going to be created. So let's just say that the wall is going to go like this, around. We want it around the rock quarry, and we want it to go all the way around to here, cover the crops, and then go around like this. So this is basically the general design of how the wall is. So it's going to be huge, and it needs to have extra room for further construction. So it might even have to make the wall even bigger, because we need to think about extra room and more crops here as well, because they got to think about the possibility of expansion. But you get the general idea. This is kind of where our wall will be. And all this wood has been cut, so we can begin the process of cutting the wall, or putting down the wall. And I do think there's some palisade walls here. Let me see if they're in here. Nope. I have to find them. 1 second. Let's type in wall, and there should be, here we go, wooden walls. These wooden walls are going to work perfect. So we'll let that begin. So let's start with putting one down so it's there. I'm going to continue deleting some more stuff here, because there's just so much wood. And we'll start with walling off first where the attack started. So that is where the wall is going to begin. So that way you're not building the wall over here and then starting and then wrapping around to here, because that is where the attack went. And more than likely, those same bandits are going to use the same tactics. They're going to use the Cloak of Night, and they're going to use that forest. And we've already done one thing to help with that by cutting a lot of those trees so that they can't use it as cover. And of course, more trees will have to be cut. So we'll keep going. So it starts getting built. So let's place our walls down. Move it over to here. So our walls are being placed like this. Okay. And don't forget, we're going to be making a ditch as well. We'll make sure to paint that ditch in as well. Let's see here. Yeah, it's a little too straight for my taste, so let's add a little bit of curve in here, just a little bit, like that. And then we'll put some curve in here as well. We'll place these together, right? Okay, and don't forget, we're also going to want to figure out where a gate is, and the gate needs to be in a good position that can be defended. Honestly, I think the best position for a gate would probably be not facing over to here, but over here. And we will have to put maybe a watchtower, some watchtowers along the surround so that people can see. And of course, as things get more and more intense, more and more villagers show up. And that's not a problem for some of the villagers. More people means more people to stand up and defend themselves against these bandits. So more houses will have to be put together, and don't worry, we'll continue putting together that we'll keep putting together that wall. But more people have showed up, and the villagers are more than happy to have them here. So we'll continue adding more. And this village is growing. Let's continue with our wall. These new villagers are being put to the task of continuing building the wall. They want to get it done quickly before the bandits arrive again. And the bandits will probably come at a they're going to calculate, so from what the blacksmith's son can tell, they'll probably return again when a crop is ready at a full harvest, because they're going to want to steal as much as possible. So they're trying to build this wall before the next harvest. So we have to quickly get this wall constructed. So we'll keep building. And that tree got in the way, so let's move it out of the way. You naughty tree. What are you doing there? The villagers are not happy with you being there, so you've been removed. Let's keep on going. Heck yeah, we're moving. It's going to be a nice little village. Keep going. All right. We're just going to keep building the wall. Let's zoom out and take a look how our wall is going. Going well. More wood is needed, of course. And of course, they're going to cut down a lot of this forest area. They do not want these bandits. According to the blacksmith, these bandits are using that thicket to their advantage. So it must, unfortunately, be cut. Oh, Now they did do a lot of replanting, but unfortunately they really need this lumber and this timber to build this wall for their defenses. So let's keep going. Now that I've put a couple of these together, you could just copy and paste like this. Put even more. Let's take 4 more, copy, paste, delete that one, didn't go well, like this. Okay, and I'm going to copy and paste this whole thing. Now, unfortunately, this is not the strongest wall. Our blacksmith's son is only a soldier and only has some experience with building this. Obviously, someone with a more professional experience would be preferable, but the villagers need to use whatever skills are at hand among their number. So the wall is going to continue to be built, and don't worry, we will make sure to put in a gate. So far, the construction has gone well, and there has been no sight of the bandits, and it's starting to look like the villagers will likely be able to finish before the bandits arrive again. Much of the wall has been constructed. Obviously, this took months and months and months of cutting timber. The carpenter has been working hard, working very, 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 very hard to produce the kind of lumber and the stakes and all the things that are needed. Obviously, the carpenter has help, asking the villagers to help and training them on how to do the work that is necessary. So the wood is being built, wood is being cut, timber, we're going to do some more cut, keep going. And don't forget, we want to also build this side. We technically have 2 teams of workers, 2 teams. You have a team working, building this side, and you have another team that are working on this side to get it done. So you have a group of about 6 people each. That's 12 people working on this. And we're going to keep building. So we keep going. All right. Ooh, how much time? We got 30 minutes. Sweet. As soon as this wall is constructed, we'll be nearly done. For now, we just want to protect our villagers against these dang bandits. And they're so uncertain if they'll return, though it's most certain that they will. Once the bandits have homed in on a location that is a reliable food source, they will likely plague this area for some time. Now, I can't feel too bad about these bandits because they could decide to join with these villagers, but they have not. Instead, they want to continue to be bandits. And I honestly can't sympathize for them, and certainly the villagers don't sympathize with them. With any chance, they would probably try to avoid them if at all possible, though the blacksmith's son says that if things get any more intense, people will have to die. And the blacksmith is already preparing for this by training some of the young boys, training some of them with arrows. He's instructed the carpenter to try to put together bow and arrows. He has some experience with a bow and is training some of the villagers for any attack that might come. All right, we've almost finished, and don't forget, we also have to add in that gatehouse, and it's not going to be very much. Let's put that there, make sure it looks okay. So all that timber has been cut. Oh, finally, after months and months and months and months of cutting wood and preparing themselves, the wall is finally finished, except for the gate, and don't worry, we'll be able to put that in there. Let's go ahead and delete these pieces of timber. A lot of this timber has been added, so we can just put it over here. And there's still some leftover timber, which is excellent for further houses, and families are quickly growing. All right, more villagers show up. Let's first finish up our gatehouse, and I'm going to go ahead and put the gate. Now there are 2 places that we can put it. There's a gate at this side that can go over here where the street ends, or we can put the gate over here, right here, and I think this is where we're going to put the gate. So I'm going to remove all these trees so that way when the gatehouse is constructed and the watchtowers are there, and the gatehouse is very simple, by the way, it's just wood. These people are not military, they are not trained for military, and only the blacksmith's son has any experience working in a private retinue. So for now, his skills are very, very much necessary. Let's continue the road going to the gatehouse and then add the gatehouse. I'm going to have this road move a little bit over to here like this. That's that main road. It will go to right about, let's say there, and we'll have it go up to here like this. Okay, and then we're also going to add a gatehouse, so let's go ahead and look for that. I think there are a couple gatehouses. Should be under the castle pack. Oopsie, I typed in castle. That's not really going to work. Okay, and we're going to use a wooden gatehouse, and it's not a very complex one. It's pretty simple. This is actually really complex in my mind, but for now it will just have to work. So this gatehouse has, we're going to change the road too. This is a weird angle. We'll have to move that. So I will fix that real quick if you'll bear with me. Out, and we'll have this go like this here, and then another section can go off to here around. And don't forget, we want to build that ditch, and we're going to do that right now. The ditch is an extra layer of defense, and you're going to make sure you pick a dark texture and just go all the way around. So let's go ahead and push this all the way up. Make sure it's dark. And I think it can be even darker than that. So I'm going to go to advanced settings, filters, and drop the brightness, because I want that ditch to be very noticeable. Let's put this here. And so this is the ditch that's growing all around, and you don't have to dig a ditch around the entire thing. And we don't really know the capabilities of these bandits. When they attacked in a way that was quick, concise, fast, knew what they were looking for. They had already surveyed the landscape and found their entrance and their exit, and they were quick so that the enemy could not tabulate any kind of analysis or any kind of details about their numbers, what kind of equipment they have. Their leader is very intelligent and used a very sneaky tactic in which the villagers are really quite unaware of how many bandits they're dealing with, what kind of equipment they have. So they'll have to err on the side of caution. The wall is an excellent choice. All right. And of course, more villagers means more crops. So we're going to have to till some more. And these also need to be changed to crops as well. So let's keep tilling our land. Let's keep getting more and more crop. More people are here, so we'll build another crop here. And more crops here. And they're going to have to remove all this. This is just getting in the way, these bushes, so we'll continue with the village growing. Our hamlet is growing. Exciting. All right. Okay, you just delete all this stuff. Get out of my way. What are you doing there? All right. Some more crops there. Let's go ahead and add in our crop texture. So just say there's a little bit more corn there. And let's just add a little bit more corn. One windmill should be enough. Let's also add one more crop in there. We're going to rotate it, put it this way. There we go. Okay, so we got some nice crops here. Let's zoom out. We're at a lot of changes. Okay. Now the blacksmith is satisfied with the soundness, sturdiness of the wall, but he also wants to place, shall we say, battlements or towers or watchtowers that can basically observe the surround. And those are going to be necessary because the bandits, depending on their numbers and power, might decide to attack different parts. Obviously the gate is going to be the best one, the best place, but there might be some other positions along the wall that might be weak or prone to attack. So we're going to want to also put some towers in some of the other areas. Let's go ahead and use these ones right here. I'm going to place one in the corner here. I'm going to just make it just a teeny bit bigger. Tower there, and we'll put one in this corner here as well. These two towers should do fine, and let's put another tower here along this surround because they attacked in this area. And of course the villagers decide to remove pretty much the entire forest where they had attacked. We can remove this lumber, move it into here. All right, we are looking good. The village is growing, and we need to continue to add in some more structures. Now, for every house that you build, make sure that you consider adding some outbuildings like barns, some tool sheds, and even some crates and barrels. It adds a little bit of extra detail, and it might give you a hint to what this particular resident might be. Okay, so it's always important to add little details like that. So I'm going to put a couple sheds and things like that along here like this. Oopsie, we want to remove that random rotate. That's not necessary. Put some structures here. All right, and now that they've walled off their thing, they're going to have to dig a well. So let's also dig a well. They do have a water source here, and that's nice and everything, but if they do get sieged, if they do get attacked, they're going to need to dig a well. And of course, they're going to confide in the Tide Witch. The Tide Witch lays on the earth, ear to the ground, listening carefully for the sound of water. Now the water spirits speak to her, and she's able to locate underground aquifers and where that water is coming from. So she listens carefully, and she finds that there's water right here in this center spot. Kind of a nice little location for a well. And that doesn't mean that they're relying entirely on the well. It just means that just in case they get sieged, they do have a water source in which they can access, because that's going to be very, very important. And I doubt there'll be much sieges, but we'll see if these bandits can maybe recruit more to their little gang. So now that you have your well, you're obviously going to want to create a road going to the well. So let's do that as well. Yeah, okay, that was dumb. All right, and I'm going to have it go to the windmill and obviously go here as well. So there's some connection between the two, and then there's some negative space here for building in more crops or any more structures or roads. So we have about 25 minutes left and 25 changes at that. All right. Yes, this is going so well. I am greatly enjoying this, and I'm going to be putting more structures up as well, because we want our nice little hamlet to grow into a village. Remember, a hamlet is just smaller than a village, and a village is smaller than a town, and a town is smaller than a city, and, well, a capital can be as big as you want it to be. Generally, it's going to be pretty large. All right, heck yeah, we've built the defenses. Those bandits better not come back, or we'll give them a 1-2. Now, the blacksmith has heard back from the leather worker and from the other workers as well, and have discovered that there's a nice little force of about 3 or 4 young men who are getting rather good with a bow and arrow, and so they will work as the town's defense. Now also there are other men, sort of elderly and children, and so they will not be able to pick up arms, and for the time being, the women will not be attending to any of the warfare, though that will change. All right, let's add in our last structures and a little bit of details to our village, and then we can go to that last bit. I'm also going to recommend that you put a little bit of dark dirt at the base of each structure, like this, and to my mind, this always looks pretty good. I'm going to quickly just do that. For me, it just kind of looks nice when you add a little bit of dirt, because that is generally what you do. To build the foundations, you have to dig down, so you're going to expect kind of a lot of dirt. And that's what I like to do, so I add that in there. This one too will need it. Some dirt, add some here, and do it to just every single one of them. And do it to this one as well. Right. So far, the mill has been able to sustain the amount of villagers that we have. It has been okay. Well, I don't know if any of you have any questions or about the village and some things like that, or if you want more questions about the lore, believe me, I'm more than willing to share it with you. But we're just going to add the last bits, when you're constructing your hamlet or village, and that's just putting in those details. Okay, so I'm going to obviously put in some little bit of bushes, I'm going to delete some more stumps, going to add in more things, remove some rock. And we're also going to add in more little sheds and stuff like that. So there's a nice shed that's going to be over here. I'm going to also build some structures over here. And I also want to have these towers manned by somebody. So at the end of this road, I'm just going to put a little tiny, not necessarily a barrack, but kind of a little structure where you run out and you can stay here. And we could move it even closer to the watchtower. And we're going to put a road there. And this person is basically going to be where they might want to stay for a night shift to switch with the guard. So we'll put a little shed out there for them to stay. The stumps do look quite large now, don't they? Oh yeah, they're massive. It sounds like looks like they're about 15 points larger. So I'm at 100 for everything else and 115 for those. That might just been an error on my part. I can fix that in the future. So I appreciate you pointing that out. Let's make sure that that road leads out over to here as well. Okay, so we're going out to that surround, and don't forget there's also another one here. So we want to put one there, and I'm going to have this road go out to this one as well. And we'll go ahead and place those little structures for our guards. And remember, these are not professional guards or anything. They're just watching over, and they don't have to watch 24/7 if they don't want to. They know very well that most likely the bandits are not going to be coming attacking them just at random. They're going to pick a time when the harvest is abundant and there's lots to steal. So they won't probably go until a little bit later. So they feel a little safe for now. And we can continue adding in more structures as we go. And obviously, wood has been used, so we can remove a lot. People had mentioned stumps, so why don't we fix that real quick and get those stumps at the right size. Stumps right there, and we'll go ahead and make sure that they're the right scale. Sometimes this happens. So all the stumps, we'll select them all. Oh, they are at 115, so if I just click this, they go to 100. Now they're about the same size as everything else, maybe a tad bit big, but 100 is at least better than 115, because this is at 100. All right, so that worked. These were big, so big trees. Ooh, so big. Let's quickly save. This village is growing, and we've got all the necessary infrastructure necessary. So when you're constructing your village, start with a hamlet and the necessary infrastructure. We'll do a little recap. It's going to be your carpenter and your blacksmith for your metalworks. You're also going to want a mason. There's the mason, and again, place your mason next to your rock quarry, because that is where most of their work is going to be conducted. Same thing with your carpenter. Have them close to a wooded area. Have them close to the resource. Otherwise, they have to do more traveling to and fro from their workspace to where the resources are. So when you're plotting out your village, town, or city, make sure that your proper workers and their shops are in the proper locations, closest to the resources. Okay, so that's very, very important. And make sure that you have your crops next to your mill. Make sure you have your storage silos next to the mill and your barn, because you're definitely going to need a barn for your livestock, right? And then don't forget to add in random structures, because not every villager is going to have a trade. So they might end up just working as a day laborer or a laborer, or working to help or take on a trade from these other tradesmen or women here. Okay? So that's pretty much it. That was super exciting. I really appreciated everyone being involved in this. It's amazing to believe that we actually got done 15 minutes early. I'm surprised. So this was a little bit of a shorter stream, and I do again apologize for earlier when we were having some technical difficulties. It seems like it was a great turnout. Anyway, excuse me, regardless of my having technical issues. So I appreciate your patience, everyone, with that. If people have any questions, like I had mentioned earlier, about the lore or about villages, feel free to ask, and I'll make sure to answer them, or feel free to ask Philip, okay? I also want to quickly plug in some guides that might be helpful for you guys. There are 2 guides that I made specifically showing the transition between a village to a city, and also a Watercolor Cities guide. I will make sure to go ahead and add that in the description at the end of the stream. I forgot to put those in there, so I will be sure to do that. And when you do click on those links, if they do interest you, feel free to also subscribe to my page. I have tons of maps that are clonable. If you're a pro user with Inkarnate, you can clone just about the majority of the maps that I make. And if you want to clone, edit them, and make them your own, change them, whatever, it's all there. So I really appreciate it, and I hope to all see you next week, Wednesday, the 17th, 10 a.m. PDT, with hopefully no interruptions or problems with audio. And we can continue the story of these villagers and move on to this village turning into a town. What is in store for these villagers? Will the bandits return? Will more refugees show up? Will a lord show up and screw up their arrangement? Who knows? Stay tuned next Wednesday. Thank you, everybody. Please stay safe and healthy, and merry map making. Thank you, everybody. Yay! Thank you, everybody.